Hey, I'm Jake Parker, and today I'm drawing this. And I'm also talking about quitting your day job to become an independent artist and the three things you need to do before you make that transition. All right, so here we are. I'm sketching out a drawing that I originally sketched on in Photoshop on my Cintiq, and I like to work that way from time to time, just to well, to be honest, I've been in a little bit of a drawing funk lately, where nothing I've feel like I've drawn has really been nailing what I was wanting to get in my, what I was seeing in my head, and my sketchbook is the last few pages, and actually the last few weeks of drawing have just been, I don't know, not the greatest work I've ever done. And so, in order to get out of this funk, I sometimes what I'll do is I'll just switch up how I work a little bit. So usually I'll sketch in my sketchbook and try to create a drawing, start to finish in the sketchbook. But what I decided to do today was to go into Photoshop and do my sketching in Photoshop first. And so I did a really rough base drawing, and then without any details or anything, just sort of getting proportions right, and printed it out on a piece of cardstock. And now I'm sketching over it and filling in the details. And I think it's helping a lot. I'm actually, I think this is gonna turn out to be a pretty good piece that I'll be happy with. And I think when you're in a drawing funk, at least for me, this is what I do. Oftentimes, to really get out of it, I'll need to not draw something that I've created from my own head. I need to either do some fan art, take something that someone else has drawn and sort of do my take on it, my version of it. And a lot of times that'll break me out of it, because what happens is by drawing something that someone else has created, it sort of frees up your original notions of what it takes to design a character, and what sort of elements that you want to put into a character design, or vehicle design, or whatever it is you're drawing. And it helps you to sort of look at the world through that artist's eyes, and kind of do things that you might not normally do. So recently I've been doing some Star Wars fan art. I've been drawing some bounty hunter art, and that's been fun, because looking at those original designs from Empire Strikes Back, I'm seeing proportions that I wouldn't have thought to do. I'm seeing stylings that I wouldn't have done, that I wouldn't have thought to done. And then ultimately, anytime you're drawing something yourself, you're going to bring your own flavor, your own artistic decisions to it. And so it turns into something a little bit unique and a little bit different from what it originally was. And I think that can help you really break out of a funk. And I think it's helped me as well. I recently finished Rocket Raccoon, and I did 5 issues of that book in the last several months. It ended up being about, I think total was 97 pages of comic art, which is a lot of drawing, and it's a little bit draining, I guess creatively. And so I think coming off of that, it was like, let's take a break a little bit. Let's kind of regroup. And then I drove off to Seattle for the convention out there. And if you've ever done a convention, if you've been to a convention, you can know it's exhausting just to attend it, but to actually work a table, which I was doing, is it is exhausting. It's tiring, and it's hard. But at the same time, I love it. I love meeting people who are fans of my work, and getting to make that connection and actually see that there are real people who like my stuff. I think that's awesome. I also it's a financial thing too. I make money at these things, and I can make a substantial amount of money in a weekend, as opposed to just staying home and drawing. So there's several reasons I go, and then I think the other main reason is I like to also connect with friends, creative friends. When you're an independent artist working out of your own studio, whether it's in your home or it's at another location, you're alone. You spend a lot of time by yourself, and it's good to get out and see other people who are sort of in the same boat as you, and you get to socialize and have dinner and reconnect with people, and it actually gets me motivated. It gets me wanting to create and to draw and to up my game when I see what other people are working on and how well they're doing, and makes me want to do even better. So if you're an artist who hasn't done a convention, you should look into trying it out, and maybe I should do a video sometime on how to do a convention. That might be a good one. Also, I should do one on etiquette for fans. What is reasonable to ask a creator to do for you, and I guess how to approach them and stuff. That'd probably be a good one. Anyways, I want to talk a little bit more about being an independent artist. I get asked questions often about how do you quit your day job so you can become an independent artist. And that's something I did a few years ago. For well over 10 years, I worked for different studios, animation studios. I worked for a video game company, and it had always been sort of a dream of mine to someday be able to work solely for myself and work out of my own studio. And but it's hard. It's hard to quit your job, because there's a certain amount of stability there, and actually some people, I think there's a lot of reasons you want to work for a studio and you want to have a day job, and for me it was the stability, it was the financial, being able to support my family, because I wasn't quite ready, wasn't quite there where I felt like I could support a family doing just freelance work or personal projects. I think also the reason for me wanting to quit the day job was to be able to follow my own creative path. I felt like I had a lot of stories, a lot of ideas, a lot of projects that I wanted to do and wanted to share with the world that just weren't going to happen working a 40-hour-a-week a day job with the little time I had at nights to work on these personal projects, and oftentimes my creative vision, or my my creative desires didn't quite align with the projects that I was working on day in and day out at the studios, and so I knew for me that was something I eventually wanted to do, was to be able to leave the day job and work for myself. So there's actually, when I look at it, there's 3 things that you need to do before you quit your day job. These are things that are actually quite important to have in place. But they're also very much need to be tailored to you precisely. And in order to tailor these 3 things to you, you need to ask yourself some questions. And that is, what do you really, really want? You need to look at your financial responsibilities. If you're a person who has to support a family, you're going to have to go about this a lot different than if you're a person who maybe your spouse is bringing in a a substantial amount of income, or you're single and you just don't have a lot of overhead. Um, so there's some things you need to think about. You also need to think about, what are your creative goals? Are you going to want to work on your own projects, or do you want to just have a freelance career where you're working on several different projects from month to month for different clients? Um, I guess also another thing to look at is, what are your social needs? Do you like working with others? Do you like being in an office environment with other people there? Do you like getting out of the house? Or are you completely content and happy to be working alone by yourself? So those are some things you need to figure out first before you can formulate your strategy. And the more that you know about your needs and your responsibilities and your desires, the better you can prepare yourself for this transition from day job to independent career. The bad thing is, the thing you do not want to do is realize that once you quit your job, that you're really not in the right position to have done that. Okay, so the 3 things you need to have set in place before you quit your day job are, I call them the buffer, the projects, and the fan base. So let's talk about this first one, the buffer. Okay, you're going to need a financial buffer. In order to have the time that you need to work on your projects, and in order to have the ability to say no to what might be a good paying but a creatively bankrupt project, is you're going to need some cash to fall back on just in times of need. You're doing this, making this transition. It's going to be hard. It's going to be it might be a little bit crazy, and that's something that I thought about too. It's like, I have a perfectly good job, and it's in a recession, right? It's in this at a time when so many people are wanting jobs. Here I am with a perfectly good job at a great animation studio, and all I can think about is working for myself, quitting that job and working for myself. And so what comes along with that is you might not have there might be some time in between projects where you're not getting a paycheck. So you want to have that. You want to have that buffer there. How much of a buffer should it be? Well, it's up to you and what your financial responsibilities are. But I would say no less than 3 months of cash on hand. And I would say a 6-month buffer is perfect. So when I quit my job, I had a 4 to 5 month buffer that would cover, just the basics. It would cover utilities and mortgage and food, but nothing fancy. It didn't cover going out to movies or going out to dinner or anything like that. And believe it or not, that came in really handy, because while I waited for checks to come in or projects to materialize, I fell back on that financial buffer. And if you're supporting a family, it's going to be a much bigger financial buffer than if you're just supporting yourself. So what you need to do is take a look at what your needs are and start piling that cash away. And that might mean you're taking on freelance jobs at night and on weekends, and tucking that money away. Or it means downsizing your lifestyle somewhat so that you can put some of that money away. Now, I'm sure some of you out there are like financial geniuses, and you're super responsible, and you already have a year's savings saved up. Awesome. You've got that done. You've got that taken care of. Good for you. But for a lot of people, living paycheck to paycheck is reality, and it requires some discipline and hard work to get out of that situation. All right, so the second one are the projects. And you're going to have a few projects in place before you quit. These projects need to fit your creative goals, and they also need to pay you money. Okay, so these could be anything from freelance work, comic books, drawing comics, or book deals. It could even be a Kickstarter. Whatever it is, when you quit your job, you want to hit the ground running and not be waiting around for projects to just materialize while you're burning through that buffer. And so for me, when I quit my job, I had several freelance jobs lined up. One was to design robots for an online game, and that's a job that I said yes to because it really fit what I was trying to do creatively myself, and I like doing robots. I'm good at robots, and so I said yes to a job that wanted me to design robots because I felt like that could advance my image as a technical, I guess, machine designer, right? Um, uh, what else? The other, oh yeah, so I had the robot design job. I also had a book deal that my agent had gotten for me. That was lined up, and it was a job to illustrate a children's book. And I also had a Kickstarter project that I was putting together as well. And so I knew that between all of these things, that was going to be providing an income for me, and I wouldn't have to rely on my buffer. My buffer would be there in case the Kickstarter didn't fund, or in case the book project, it took several months for the publisher to pay me, or this freelance project, my buffer's there in case their paychecks didn't come in a timely fashion. But the other thing was, okay, so those financially, they were all supporting me, but the other thing was is they all were creatively, they all fit my creative goals. And I guess I should talk a little bit about what I say yes to and what I say no to as a project. I want to take on projects that are going to advance the Jake Parker brand, I guess. I like to saying yes to projects that my name will be on the project. I do oftentimes do projects for production houses or commercial houses, and those are nice. They pay well, but at the end of the day, the commercial gets made, it gets put on TV or wherever it's displayed, and nobody knows that I worked on it. Except for the people in house. And I like to say yes to projects where, whether it's a book or it's a comic or it's a Kickstarter thing, where you could see it and say, "Oh, Jake Parker created this," because what that does is it connects my name to a certain visual style and a certain aesthetic, and when people think, "Oh, I need this visual style, I need this aesthetic, who should I go to?" Oh yeah, Jake Parker does that. I'll ask him. So that's something to think about in as far as your creative goals and what you say yes to and what you say no to. Actually, that right there is like a whole video in and of itself. I should talk more about that one of these times. All right, so I've talked about the buffer, I've talked about the projects, and lastly, this just might be the most important one, is you need to have an established fan base. I don't know any successful independent artist who doesn't have some kind of fan base. This just might be the hardest thing. But I think it's, like I said, I think it's the most important. Having a loyal fan base and a way for your fans to support you is the perfect situation for an artist. Clients can be finicky and fleeting. You don't know when they're going to call you, when they're going to need you. You might call them and like, "Is there any work?" And they'll say, "No, we don't have anything right now." A book publisher might not sell a bunch of your books, so you might not ever make a royalty off of that. You might not be able to convince an investor to like fund your project, help fund your project. But the thing with a fan base that you've built a relationship of trust with, a fan base that you care for and that you nurture, they will support you to the end. And I want you to think about yourself as a fan, right? Who are you a fan of? Think about that particular artist or that particular franchise, and if they reach out to you and say, "Look at this thing I've created, look at this thing I've made it just for you," you are going to want that thing. You're going to want to support the artist because they've made that thing that you like, and so that right there, I think, is like the perfect situation for an artist. How do you do this, especially if you're just starting out? First, you need a platform. Luckily, we live in the 21st century, and there's no shortage of platforms on the internet for you to for you to build on. There's social media, there's website builders, there's forums and blogs. There's so many different ways for you to connect with other people. And what you need to do, and what your responsibility is to be present and active on all of these sites. You're going to need your own website, and I look at a website as sort of the foundation for everything. It's a place that you can call your own, a place that presents your body of work, and it's a place where you can share your ideas, share your process. And it's sort of like a home base for anyone who wants to learn more about you and find out who you are and what you're doing. And it's where you want to drive social media too. So you need to be present and active on social media, and consistently and genuinely share yourself on those platforms. Set up a schedule that you can stick with, and then stick with it. Whether it's once a week or 5 times a week, stay consistent and share what you're doing, share what you're creating. The fans will start to come. It'll be a little at first, but you want to engage those people, become friends with them, because those first few fans are going to be your strongest ambassadors. Those 10 people, say you have 10 followers, right? You're actually in a very unique and envious place for someone who has 50,000 followers. You can individually engage and actually build a friendship with 10 people. You can't do that with 50,000 people. It's a lot harder. And what happens is those 10 people really get to know and love your work, and they're going to tell 10 of their friends. And now you have 100 fans. And those 100 fans, as you engage them and as you share stuff with them, and they comment on something and you reply back, they're going to share your work with their friends as well. And now you have 1,000. And that's how you grow a fan base. And it really takes time. It takes a lot of work, but it's totally worth it. And I think as an artist, it's something you just have to do. So that's it. The buffer, the projects, and the fan base. Have these 3 things in place, and you will become an independent artist. It's going to be hard. It's going to take some work, but those are things you need to be working on and things you need to be figuring out before you quit that day job. And it's something that you can definitely do while you're working at your day job. And it's something I did. It took several years, but I was finally in a place where I could do it. And I guess that's it. All right. And here's the finished drawing. I really like how this turned out. I kind of like this character. His little dinosaur sidekick. I might have to draw this guy a few more times. All right. See you guys. That video was somewhat helpful. I hope many of you are able to make that transition and be able to do those 3 things. I know those 3 things are complicated, and they probably each require their own time to just dissect and figure out how you actually do that. I might do videos on each one of the three things. But if you are an artist who quit your day job and are an independent artist who made that transition, I'd love for you to tell us your story in the comments below. I think that'd be really helpful for other people who are wanting to do that. I just want to say thanks to everyone who's subscribed. It was nice to meet a bunch of you in Seattle a couple weeks ago. A lot of you came up and said you really enjoyed the videos, so it was nice meeting you. Good to see you. Sorry, there's been a few lapses in weeks, I guess. A lapse in videos for a couple of weeks there. Just been busy, been traveling and finishing up projects and stuff. But I'm gonna try and maintain a pretty consistent schedule going forward. Also, I want to say thanks to everyone who had suggestions on what I should talk about in my comics class. That class, I'm about neck deep into it right now. It's coming along nicely. It's gonna be really good. There's a lot of good insight I have on just how to do comics. So that class will be
when that class is available, I'll just have a link for it in the description below. And I think that's it. So we'll see you guys next time. Bye.